hello there, and welcome to the Death Metal Cast. What was that?
There's a lot of us.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. It was like it was way too close to, oh, hi, I didn't see you there. I don't know. You got me.
I can't. Every time I ever say hello, you're like, oh, don't say.
Don't greet people, Ben. How many times do I have to tell you? Stop greeting people.
Notes on greetings. That's where we're at.
Since we did you all, we're going to do a Q&A today. No, welcome to the first big monster Q&A extravaganza of 2021, whatever the hell we're calling it.
Palooza.
Oh, we're calling it that now.
Palooza.
Yeah. Electric Boogaloo.
Yes, the Question Palooza Electric Boogaloo. I'm Ben, voice of Wiz and Death Battle. I'm joined by a bunch of people who work on the show, which is awesome. We got Josh.
Hello.
Hey, Josh.
I'm introducing myself.
Writer and director of several episodes.
There you go. You got it.
You wrote Yoda versus Mickey.
I did. That was a fun one.
We'll get to questions about that. We got Genevieve.
Hi, I'm back. I'm sure you missed me, the crazy lady.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Writer
You're never going
as
to
well.
forget that comment.
No, it was so good.
Sometimes they just stick, right? But writer of Shadow vs. Ryuko, another episode we're going to get to. Liam's here.
Woo! Hello, everybody. How you doing? I don't know.
Writer
I
of
don't
no
know.
episodes.
Yeah,
yet.
not a writer. Nothing.
Well,
But
except for that one
perhaps-
that's about to come out. I don't know. Maybe you were involved with that one.
Perhaps just a tad, just a smidgen.
We'll get to that. We got a little
directing.
sneak peek for
Mhm.
you later on this episode. And then
We're
we got, Chad's here too.
It's me in man bone form.
Woohoo.
Nice.
It looks
good.
good, man.
Yeah.
Thanks.
What's this? Your
Fun.
chat is evolving.
Yep.
All right. So I know you guys have been, we've been really appreciating the response to the new take on Death Metal Cast that we've been doing this year. By expanding the community Death Battle. And also, we've been kind of like experimenting a bit. And you guys have been super on board with it so far, but we have heard you, and we know that you want some Q&A episodes as well. So we're going to be trying this thing where we're like bouncing back and forth between community Death Battle episodes and Q&A episodes throughout the season. And let us know what you think of it, because this entire show is going to be a deep dive into Yoda versus King Mickey, Shadow versus Ryuko, Death Battle Season 8 so far, plans for Death Battle Season 8, what we've all been doing on the show, and so much more. And if you are watching this live Wednesday noon on Rooster Teeth TV, you can also leave questions in the chat. We have a ton of questions already to get through, so I don't know if we'll be able to get to everything in the chat. Definitely won't be able to get to everything in the chat. But if something comes up in the chat, we're definitely keeping an eye on it, so we can address that too. So, you guys want to get into it? You ready to go?
Hell
do it.
yeah.
Let's
Bring it
get
on.
into
Come
what's
on.
going on.
Hit me.
I'm throwing you off, Brian.
Anytime.
It's time to talk about what's going on.
I feel like Brian just waited a second because Liam was like, hit me. And Brian's like, I'll do it when I damn well
Yeah,
please.
yeah.
You can't tell him what to do.
All right, let's get right into it. I got a bunch of questions pulled up.
Ooh.
Number one, this is for Yoda versus King Mickey. Could Yoda have used the Force to mind control King Mickey?
Excellent question.
Good question.
The answer is maybe, but there's some asterisks. So, like, being a Keyblade wielder involves, like, resisting the darkness, like that kind of soul corruption and mental corruption of the darkness. So, it's possible that he has a resistance. Even if he doesn't, Yoda's, like, the Force mind control is more simplistic. You can kind of suggest commands to them, but pretty basic commands. And the commands that Yoda could give Mickey, none of them would really matter. Like, he couldn't really keep, like, Mickey wouldn't really have a way to, like, he'd be like, kill yourself, and then Mickey would, like, bonk himself on the head with the Keyblade. It wouldn't really, that would, yeah, exactly. I'm not even sure if Mickey would be capable of killing himself with how tough he is. So, not really. It's also
like
not
Mickey
something
smacks
Yoda would
himself
try.
in the face and does nothing.
And Yoda just watches.
Yeah.
Isn't there a thing too? Like it's easier to be persuasive on people with like who are like weak of mind, and so
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. So like people who are like very like for example a Keyblade master probably be pretty hard to influence them.
Yeah. 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 So
Great.
maybe, but it wouldn't really help him. And Mickey is so much faster that he would just blitz and destroy him before Yoda could get like a mind.
Oh yeah. By the way,
down.
spoilers. Heads up
Oh, yeah.
if you haven't seen these.
Oh yeah, we probably should have
gonna be
led with that. If you haven't
Oh,
seen
yeah.
Yoda versus King Mickey or Shadow versus Ryuko, well, spoilers abound. Let's
Yep.
go.
How are you watching this and still haven't seen the episodes? They've been
That's
out for a while
ballsy.
for first members.
Could accidentally
it's
tune in, who
ballsy
knows?
To go for the Q&A before the episode. Really get
Yeah.
your facts straight.
Yep. All
Reverse
right.
engineer.
Josh, did that ever come up, like that idea when you were writing it? Like, oh, maybe
Yeah,
you could like
I remember-
control his mind.
Yeah, it was totally like I think we debated about whether or not Mickey would even be susceptible, and then like Liam said, even if he was, there's not much he could do with it. Like it wouldn't tip the scales in any meaningful way. So it would have just been something to tack on if we wanted to, but ultimately we didn't. And I think one of my favorite things about that fight script is how much like weirdly these characters have a lot of respect for each other, and I really liked that element of it for these characters. So I think Yoda shows up and he's like aware, I don't think this is going to work on a guy like this. Like this is a tough fighter. It's not going to work. So
Yeah, it would be a little weird to have Yoda start using powers that just don't work, because
Yeah.
he's definitely more experienced than to keep making that sort of mistake.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love the attitude those characters have in the fight. I hope we can do more of that in the future, like that kind of relationship in the combat. Anyway,
All right.
you move on to the next one.
Question number 2. Also Yoda versus King Mickey. What would have happened if Yoda had continued the fight as Ghost Yoda?
It would have been awesome.
Oh my god!
Long,
so there's a bunch of
source of conversation.
yeah, there's a bunch of different reasons, but like the main one is it wouldn't have changed, right? Because like Sora's fought ghosts, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yes. The Phantom at the end of Kingdom Hearts at the Clock Tower, which is horrible, annoying boss. There's also the Ghost Heartless inside of Monstro. Keyblades can affect ghosts, affect spiritual beings.
Keyblades are OP as shit.
Yeah.
And also like it's questionable whether or not like a Force ghost. Like, okay, I know everybody harps on like, oh, Yoda as a Force ghost struck that lightning with, or struck that tree with lightning in Last Jedi, and that like changes everything. But like, not really. Like the whole idea behind the Force ghost is that they are now one with the Force, which is the ever-present, ever-binding energy of the universe. So like, they could theoretically affect all sorts of things, but at the same time, like, is he still Yoda, or is he like Yoda in the Force and the Force acting through Yoda? Like, it's questionable what that means. And also, the only reason why this really comes up, frankly, not even Last Jedi, is because there's that one DLC for Force Awakened where you fight Ghost Obi-Wan and kill him.
Such a bummer. Such a bummer that DLC was. It's kind of hard to watch, honestly.
I
But
didn't
yeah,
know about that.
yeah. He would still be able to hurt him, and like Yoda's already dead, and we don't really know the limitations or full birth of abilities that Yoda has as a Force ghost. So
But
it's kind of
it
like
would have been awesome, like Josh
Yep.
said. Question number 3, still Yoda King Mickey. Whenever you bring another Star Wars character into Death Battle, do you expect to keep combining Legends and canon material?
I think this largely just depends,
Mhm.
right? Because like, and this is frankly a question for like any character that we bring into Death Battle. Like when they have multiple sources of material that kind of conflict with each other, but are also considered main sources. Like, how do we present Yoda as Yoda, but also ignore half of what he's been in that people will want to see? And so it really just depends on the character. Like, definitely if a character shows up that's like just from like the canon material, you know, like a lot of those original Clone Wars characters, for example, I doubt we would incorporate legacy material. And frankly, I think the more we get into the Disney like era, I think the less and less the legacy stuff is going to really matter anymore. But
yeah,
it's kind of up
like,
in the air.
I think a good example is like Rey. Like Rey, obviously, canon character, only canon character. She's fought Palpatine, but that doesn't mean that we would then scale her to Legends Palpatine, because she didn't fight Legends Palpatine. She fought canon Palpatine. And so the only feats we could take into consideration there are the canon Palpatine feats. I think is a good delineation, because she just hasn't fought that version of Palpatine.
It's a tricky thing.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, I'm so proud of you guys. This is like the most succinct you've been in the Death Battle Q&A.
That's why we got this whole group.
Yeah. All right.
We can cover everything.
This is a general question just for Death Battle. How many episodes of Death Battle will this season have? And will there be a mid-season break like last year?
Cool. Yeah, I wanted to cover this. We've already talked about this a little bit in a previous episode, but I know it's hard to keep track of how many episodes of Death Battle Cast have we done? Like 200 or something? So this season of Death Battle will have 16 episodes. And there will be a mid-season break halfway through, similar to last year. Now, that does not necessarily mean that we won't have 20-episode seasons in the future. In fact, the intention was to have 20 episodes. That worked out so well last year, despite everything that went on. But we had to pare it down to 16 because, frankly, COVID caught up and affected us, in the pocketbook and whatnot. Like it affected everybody, not just, Rooster Teeth, but companies across the world, media, entertainment, whatever, throughout 2020. And we were very lucky. Death Battle last season was very lucky in that we had gotten really far ahead of pre-production before the quarantine even happened. So the most that COVID really affected Death Battle last year was that we had to shift a lot of scheduling around, but we already had most of those episodes like partway done. Like pre-production was already done for a lot of them. We had already started animation for Hulk versus Broly. Like it was crazy. Like before before March. That obviously isn't the case this year. So we're paring it down. We just got to deal with it and get through it. And we had to basically make a choice between, do we do 20 episodes with a smaller budget, or do we do 16 episodes and we have the time and resources to really focus on making those 16 episodes really good. And because this is the 10th year anniversary, I figured we have to go with that. It has to be we really need to make sure that these episodes are worthy of being the 10-year anniversary episodes. Every one is exciting and worthy of being as Luis has put it several times, potentially even each one could be a season premiere or a season finale. So that's kind of the goal. And that's basically it. But yeah, 16 episodes, mid-season break in the middle, similar to last year.
As someone from New York, I know intimately well the impact of COVID on businesses. Manhattan real estate has plummeted. The cost has plummeted since the beginning of COVID. Now is the time to buy real estate in Manhattan. Because
not in Austin, dude.
Liam buying it.
Not in Austin.
Yeah, everyone from California is coming here. I don't know if you heard that. So it's
yes.
It's impossible to buy a house right now.
Yeah.
April keeps trying to be let's just sell our house. She's like, I know we wouldn't be able to buy another one, but I just really want to capitalize on this.
I will say, Liam is not a professional realtor. Do not just assume that suddenly.
But it went down about 16%, and
that's
a lot of office.
And he did the calcs on it. That's cool. How much?
Real estate death battle: Austin versus New York.
There you go.
Oh my god.
All right. Next question is for Ben. Now that you brought in Yoda, even though you banned him out of spite, does this mean you're willing to bring in other characters you've said you hate, like Silver the Hedgehog or Sasuke?
Yes. Characters that I definitely hate. And if you have been requesting that we bring in Silver the Hedgehog, I'm sorry to say it, but it's no use. I really shouldn't say that. That. Somebody's going to take that seriously and clip it out and be like,
don't get the reference.
It's been admitted that they'll never bring in Silver. It's no, that's not the case at all. The joke or the idea that Yoda was banned, or that I'll never bring in, or I would never allow Silver or Sasuke to be in a death battle, it was always meant to be a joke. I know that doesn't always land, but it was just us having, being silly. And I mean, Sasuke's already been in a death battle, so there you go. But I will say, like, Yoda was definitely a character.
You were
that
against Yoda in the beginning.
I was sort of against Yoda. I wasn't necessarily gonna like completely ban him. My thing with Yoda was I didn't really know how we would cover him, because Yoda didn't make a lot of sense to me, just based on the prequels and the original series, and then Clone Wars and of all things Last Jedi kind of cleared up a lot of that stuff and helped present a better way of viewing how the Jedi like went about the Jedi's fall, like made more sense. And it was like, okay, this is how we can present Yoda, and it can be a logical interpretation of him, as opposed to two different conflicting ideas within the same series and the same canon. That was basically all that was like kind of like frustrating to me. But it wasn't necessarily something that meant we would never bring him in.
Are you suggesting that the prequels are hard to follow and understand and logically inconsistent?
No.
Are you suggesting that?
No, of course not. Why would I ever say that? The prequels have always been so perfect. Oh, God, I can't even finish that.
Can't even get it out.
Let's move on to the next question, please.
Okay, cool. I like this too. It's like they're really taking it. This is for Josh and Liam, who have had their directorial debuts with Death Battle. So, when you're the director of a
Liam's
Death
almost.
Battle, how much control do you have in deciding the victor? Is it up to Ben, the writers, or the researchers?
100% control. Researchers can argue as long as they want, and ultimately it's my call at the end of the day.
No, Liam,
I am
don't
just
say
kidding.
that.
I am
We
just
have them
kidding.
reverse engineered.
I am
And use it
100% kidding. No, because I know somebody will take it. No, it is, as it always has been, like a group decision. Like we like all need to come to a consensus, and we always do. Like we're on the same page for a lot of stuff of like what we consider, and even if there is some disagreements, we talk through them and we try to find like a reasonable middle ground on stuff. It is not anyone's like singular decision. It is like it's a thing that we all kind of cooperate on.
It's argue until no one can argue anymore.
Yeah,
Which is kind of all
you tucker them out.
The Death Battle formula.
Josh, what kind of stuff does, as a director, do you have control over?
In terms of like deciding the victor, it's a lot of like I just try to poke holes in arguments and to see if there are any, asking questions and really trying to make sure that you're convinced in the decision that we decide, because that's what's going to drive a lot of the decisions you make is that initial, well, who's going to win and why, and formulating all that argument. And it's always really impressive. Like researchers come in and they like oftentimes are researching a character that they really love. Like it's one of the reasons that they decide or volunteer to research that character. So they're coming in with like a real admiration for those characters, but they're always 100% of the time more than willing to like concede when it makes sense to. And it's like you gotta have a respect for all the researchers when they do that. Like they really are coming to the table to like decide and help us decide who's going to win these fights and why.
They go into it invested too. That's what's fun. Like like the calls are fun because they both like, oh yeah, let me tell you why my character's gonna beat yours, and like then they'll trade off. It's like, oh yeah, that's cute. Like it's almost like what you're getting now with like this new format of Death Battle,
but twice as long.
The comic book characters, you get like pages and pages and pages of research where you're like, oh, that's more information that I didn't know, and more, and then it just adds up, so it's overwhelming, but like still really useful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I do want to make sure like that it's clear. If we don't come to, so the researchers will bring all this information to the writers, the director, and et cetera, in that meeting, where we all have to come to a consensus. If we don't come to a consensus by the end of the meeting, there's going to be another meeting. Like we are going to keep going until we get it figured out. We're never going to just say, we'll just cut it here. We'll figure it out later. No.
I remember for Flash versus Sonic, we were like, at the end, we were like, we think Flash wins, but it's really close and hard. And then, like, I remember, like, the next day, you messaged me, was like, so do you want to, like, just chat some more about Flash versus Sonic? Because we still had so much to talk through, and we talked again for, like, another 2 hours. It's we always want to make sure that we have all the questions answered, because, like, we know that people are going to ask tons of questions about the episode, and people watching will be just as invested as we are, if not more so, in the conclusions that we come to. And because the people watching aren't part of the process step by step, they don't know how much we have or have not covered. So it's sort of like, oh, they didn't mention that, or oh, they missed this point, becomes a much more like a bigger deal, because the possibility that like, well, we didn't consider it during the process, or that we completely missed it. So it's really important for us to really cover all of our bases, so that people feel safe, right, with the conclusion.
Between, working at these screens all day and then finishing it and looking at this screen for the rest of the day, you get a lot, I do, and I think everybody does, you get a lot of blue lights, and that can mess with your melatonin production, which can mess with your sleep schedule, which can just make y'all, not as good as you could be. So what are you going to do about it? You can go FelixGray.com, because Felix Gray has the best blue light filtering glasses in the game. Let's see, most clear blue light filtering glasses out there only block 2 to 3% of blue light. Felix Gray, they got about 15 times that, so that's some real good numbers, On top of that, Felix Gray glasses are super styling, handmade Italian acetate, durable, lightweight, and super comfortable. So, I mean, the thing you should add too is, even if you don't have like bad eyes like I do, where you should use these for anything that isn't right in front of your face, you can get just a normal one, just normal glasses to filter blue light. You don't need a prescription or anything, and those start at only $95. Plus, if you do have the prescription like me with your, crappy face blobs, then it's only $145, and that's a super reasonable price for some excellent, durable glasses. So, finally a pair of glasses designed for the 21st century. Get a pair of these bad boys and support the show by going to FelixGray.com/battlecast. That's Felix Gray, FelixGray, glasses.com/battlecast. Listeners can get free shipping, free exchanges, plus 30-day money-back guarantee. So, FelixGray.glasses.com/battlecast. Yeah, go check them out. Great glasses. The blue light filtering. If you haven't tried it before, worth it. It really cuts down the headaches for me, at least. So, give it a try. It's super worth it. They're awesome. They support the show. Please support us.
That's the trick for Death Battle being an entertaining show. Cannot tell you how many times Ben and I have been like, well, should we include that? It's like, no, I mean, it's pretty much covered. Like, but we didn't explicitly say it's like if there's enough context here for them to know that, like, surely we knew about that, which is not important because of, X or Y reason. And then like 1,000 comments like, you missed blank. And we're just like, oh man, no, we didn't. But like, we didn't directly tell you that we, yeah.
I could make each episode, like as a writer, I could make each episode like an hour long if I wanted to, at least with some
feature-length
characters. There's just so much stuff to cover.
Visions of the original Goku versus Superman just flooded through my brain right now. Like, we even recorded that shit, and it was bad.
I lost my voice from version 1 of that script because it was so long.
That was terrible. Anyway, let's move on to the next question.
All right, next question. Oh, it's to me. Boomstick has been mentioning his absentee dad a lot lately and has mentioned looking for him. Are you guys starting a big storyline this season or what? Won't that just distract from the rest of the show? All right, fair point. And it was actually one of my biggest concerns when we started bringing this up. We thought we'd do something fun for the 10th anniversary season, but I've worked on the internet for a very long time, and the quickest way in my mind to kill a show is have something that's great, successful, standalone content that anyone can pick up at any time and try and jam a narrative into it. So when this got brought up, we were talking about it, and we wanted to make sure we did it in a smart way. So you'll see a little bit more, and it's mainly going to happen in a fun episode, but it will not take over Death Battle. Death Battle will still, like, it being standalone, is still the priority for the show. So
yeah,
I can't give you many more details than that.
You can, but you just choose not to.
I do want to like expand on that. Even like back in episode 1, when we were first making this, there was talk of like, well, are Wiz and Boomstick going to have like a story? Is there going to be like a universe that we build this around? And we even like kind of brainstormed some ideas, but even back then we were like, no, if we try to make this less about the characters that, are fighting, that people are coming to the episode to watch, and more about Wiz and Boomstick, it's not going to work. And we're over 140 episodes in and have maintained that idea. So no, we're not going to suddenly change that opinion. But it's the 10th year anniversary. We want to do something a little special, right? So you'll see. It'll be a lot of fun.
And if you guys are trying to make guesses, I promise you have no idea.
You have no idea. You have no idea. It's gonna be fun though, but holy shit, you have no idea.
Oh boy, working on that was so much fun, and all literally my answer, Chad, you went more into it. I was gonna be like, wouldn't you like to know? That was gonna be my answer.
Well, I mean, and then bringing up, because they brought up a good point, won't that distract from the rest of the show? And you can ask everybody here, the second that started getting talking, I was the biggest person to be like, I don't know, guys. And just why I love the show, and I would like to see it continue and to succeed, and so I'm very protective of that. So is Ben, so is everybody that works on it. But it's just making sure we do that.
Interesting. Everybody in chat is asking, who is Wiz's wife? Who said he had a wife?
Because there was a. I think I know why they think.
Let's go. Let's get to the next question.
All right. I want to talk about that so bad. Okay, this one goes to Jen and Josh. For the 10th year anniversary season, how has writing changed? Is there anything you're doing differently that you can talk about?
Well, you're writing a lot more scripts than I am, Jen, I think.
Well, there's one thing that I can't talk about.
Oh.
And I love that one thing that I can't talk about. It's so much fun. I can't wait for people to see it. But in terms of other things that have changed for more this season, I think we've done more of a change up of the format for rundowns, more so trying to make it coherent as a narrative rather than splitting it into sections of abilities, feats, weaknesses, that sort of thing. So I don't know. I liked that because it was sort of fun to meld things and have it be more interconnected rather than listy, at least, I don't know, in a new format way. Not saying it was bad either way, just more it was a new change, a next change.
It's a little more flexible as opposed to the chapters in each rundown that we kind of used to do.
Because if you're saying, oh, this guy can fly, then wouldn't you want to say to the moon, in that same sentence, rather than saying later on, so he can fly, he also flew to the moon, in a separate paragraph, a page on.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. A perfect example of that.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
And I was and that may or may not be a hint for something. It's really not. I was just
It's not.
I was imagining something.
I was also thinking of is that a hint for something? And I was like, no, I don't think.
Oh, a character that can fly? Oh, gee.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly.
Like the ones we just had?
Yeah.
Or are about to have? Another thing that I wanted to do was make sure that I have given these guys some stricter guidelines in terms of page length.
Yes.
Yeah.
True.
In every meeting, I'm sad about it.
Yes.
No, less so about obviously we need to make sure that all the information is delivered correctly. So I'm super lenient on it, but at the same time I was like, we should probably make sure
for pages.
Yeah. We should probably make sure like these episodes don't like expand to 25 minutes or something. And it's just like these long, boring ramblings. But a lot of fun.
One of the things I've also focused on, or like kind of for myself, is really emphasizing the characters of the characters, like their personalities and their journeys and their stories within the rundowns, and also how they reflect and interact with each other, and trying to feel like get that across in like their fights as well as the rundowns.
That actually
could not have teed up the next question more perfectly, which is, when writing a death battle fight, do you focus on depicting a character's personality as it is from the end of their series, I think, as opposed to versus the beginning?
Liam, Josh, Jen, any thoughts on that?
I think it's about telling a story, mostly. Like, it's not so much, we focus on the end of the characters. Like, I think for the battle, it's like, okay, where is the character now? While also still, for lack of a better word, compositing their journey. And then for the rundown, we want to sort of show how they've grown, how they've gotten to where they are.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that focus more on... We try to focus more on the characters, like, in terms of the fight, like how they're portrayed in the fight, like the end of their journey, because it's usually when the character is the most powerful, if you can give it like in a shonen sense. But it depends. If a character changes wildly at the end of their series and isn't anything like who they were throughout most of the series, then we'll focus on the one that's we'll focus on how they interact with people, what their personality is through most of the series. It is very much like a determined, case by case. With comic book characters, it's really easy because there's no end to their story. They're just who they are, kind of consistently.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's not always an end to base it on. But Josh, I think Yoda is actually a really good example of this, right?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, because I think we always want to portray like what the bulk of the audience, when they think of Yoda and they think of that version of Yoda, the one that they hold in their mind, it's not always this all-encompassing portrayal. It's like the iconic Yoda is kind of what we want to get at. So there's definitely room to explore the different sides of him, but for the bulk of it, you want to explain like the character of Yoda that he's been for the majority of the time. And it was fun in that script in particular because we really did focus on the character of Yoda and the character of King Mickey, and not just explaining feats, but also explaining like why they did those things and what it meant for their character arcs. And that was like a really satisfying thing to convey in that script.
And that's why in the fight halfway through, he stops using the lightsaber because that's sort of emulative of his own journey. And those sort of fight scripts, I think, are really fun when we're able to like sort of showcase the character across their journey all in one fight. We can't always do that. It doesn't always make sense. But Yoda was one where we could absolutely pull that off. I think it worked great.
And I pulled this question from the chat earlier, and I think now's a good time because I think you get right in the perfect little section for this. But Venusaurus says, here's a question. Are characters that have multiple continuities, like Dr. Doom and Lex Luthor, how do you guys determine which one is the main one to focus on, where there are a lot of different versions out there?
How we determine which is like the primary source?
Yeah.
Usually whatever the original source is. Comic book characters is easy. It's the comic book. So Marvel 616 is like Doom's primary source, right? So that's what we're going to focus on. There are movies, there are cartoons, there are other universes in Marvel where Doom exists, and it's certainly worth looking at them to make sure that there's nothing crazy going on that might like somehow be connected to the main series universe and then somehow change how that impacts it. But like the generally speaking, we use those more as like supporting evidence, because like a comic book is actually a really good example where sometimes they'll mention something in a comic book and say like, oh, this character can do this. Well, we won't really see it, or like they'll say that a laser beam is like super fast, but it's just a single image of a laser beam. It's just there drawn. So like, how do we determine how fast it is? But then it appears like in a later, comic book adapt or cartoon adaptation or something like that. And it's like, oh, well, we can actually use that to support this claim that the laser is super fast, and then we can like measure the speed of it and then sort of apply it that way. And that's what I mean by supporting evidence. But that's few and far between.
Anime is a good example of where that becomes like necessary. Sometimes like some feats happen in anime. Like anime a lot of the time are like straight adaptations of whatever manga series it is.
So if a character, the manga.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then you get Full Metal Alchemist, the original one, where they like teleport into Nazi Germany. It's really weird. So yeah, like supporting evidence from anime, like oh, there's a feat that this character does in this anime that wasn't shown in the manga, but it's something they could reasonably do based on what we know of them in the manga. It isn't this huge deviation. That stuff will be included as like extra supporting evidence. But yeah, the if it's something that deviates wildly, like the Full Metal Alchemist, I haven't seen the original anime, but if stuff in there happens that like completely deviates from the original source material, and I know some plot stuff does for sure, then that stuff would not be included, unless we were specifically doing like anime Full Metal Alchemist or whatever.
I'm grabbing this one too because it's a really quick answer. Flaming Kitty T40 says, "Is it easier to do characters who had their series end?" You would think that. You would think that. Sure would be if we didn't have this damn curse that every time we're like, oh, great, this is done. We'll do the episode. Here's the episode. Hey, guess what, guys? This thing's getting a revival. New episodes, new season, new whatever. And then everybody's like, oh, your episode's out, but what about this? Now it's not answered anymore. And you're just like, mother.
If we ever do Gordon Freeman in a death battle, that is when Half-Life 3 will
That's
be
so Ben and I have talked about that. Like, that's
Use
how we
the
make
curse for
Make
good.
it happen.
use the curse.
Use the curse for good.
Yeah. Okay. What prompted having Wiz and Boomstick be animated in the first place back in episode 100?
So you can see their
Ben and I
beautiful
wanted
faces.
to do this forever.
Yeah.
I mean, it originally, dude, God, I think we talked about it as far back as that first Q&A we did, where we silhouetted ourselves and dressed up as the characters, because especially back then we were very limited on like what we were showing, and it was really frustrating to have to, like, especially if we're talking about stuff like, you know, Boomsticks mentioned like jump in a dune buggy or whatever. That was super hard on the editors because they're like, what the hell do I show here? It's like, I don't know, go find footage of a dune buggy jump in a house. And they're like, well, that's really hard to find. So we always like one as like as like an editorial tool. We really wanted that, so to be able to cut to the characters when they're saying the silly stuff. And then also just like it brings them to life a little bit more. It also allows us to do physical bits, which I'm a huge fan of physical comedy. And yeah, it just, I don't know, it solves it solves problems while also, I think, just evolving the characters to the next level. And that was one of the big things about us coming down and being a part of Rooster Teeth that allowed us to do. And it's so crazy. Like, even every time I still, like, they've been here for a little while now, but I see every time I see Wiz and Boomstick on screen, I'm like, that's cool.
There were so many times in like pre-episode 100 that I can recall, where we will sometimes, you know, just sort of go off and improv some like really stupid jokes every so often. Like if there's a joke in a death metal script that you're like, ugh, that was terrible. It probably isn't the writer's fault. It's probably Chad and my fault, not her fault. But like, I know, Chad, there were multiple times when you'd be like, oh, this would be really funny if this happens. And it's like some physical comedy gag. And I would have to like veto it real hard because I'd be like, I don't know how we would even get that across, man. Like, because we're just audio. But now we can do it. So it's
fun. Like now we get to do dumb stuff in the booth, like, because we had the trident. And I was like, what if you just stabbed me and I just cut off the scream? Like, you know, just like.
Perfect example of what that wasn't in the script. I'm still not sure if that was a good idea.
But now we can do it. I love it because it's just, and I love the way it was animated too, because Wiz is just like, you know, and then it just cut. Yeah, it's great. Like, I love that. Now we get to do that.
All right, we are almost to the sneak peek for Lex versus Doom, as well as talking about that a little bit. But we do have some questions for Shadow versus Ryuko.
Yep, coming in right now. For Shadow versus Ryuko, how is Shadow's feat of destroying the planet Aquarius less powerful than Ryuko's feat of breaking life fiber?
I saw this question and I was like, ooh, math. Okay, so the reason is because the planet Aquarius, we know from some like data file cards, some obscure shit, that it is about 1/10 the size of the moon. So the way that we calculate like destructive capability in this instance is we would measure the size of an object, use an assumed density to get its mass, and then either find out like what it would be the gravitational binding energy of if it's like a planet, or like if it's vaporized, like how much energy it would take to vaporize X kilograms of, you know, planet or whatever. We use that energy to find out the energy it would take for that attack. Planet Aquarius is much smaller than an average planet. So if it was like the Earth, then yeah, it would be bigger than the Ryuko feat. But it was actually 1/10 the size of the moon, very small, much less energy. The hole that is created by the life fibers, I didn't look at the exact numbers, but frankly, if it's about the 1/10 the size of the moon, that hole that she creates is probably larger than the planet Aquarius. Combined with the fact that the assumed density we used for the life fibers that she destroyed was steel, because of how their like life fibers are unnaturally tough. We used steel for that. that density is going to be greater, I believe, than like anything we'd use for like a planet like granite or something. So that would make the energy larger. I think it made it about 650 times.
Yeah, and when you're saying like I didn't look at the numbers, you're talking specifically for this Q&A.
Yeah. For this.
Yeah, not for the actual calculation.
No.
It's so
Just
funny,
as
Ben.
I
You
was-
said that, and I had the same exact thought. I was like, I shouldn't have said that. Like,
They're gonna think that we just made it up.
No. We always look at the number. I just meant as I was talking right now, answering this question.
no,
Not
Ben
for
and
the
I are
episode.
just scarred. Okay, don't worry about
We
it.
got you. We got you covered, man.
And I can feel myself like getting dumber because I was like, oh, I looked at these numbers and I am not following anymore. Like it's just sort of going in one ear and out the other. And I was like, this makes sense. Trust Liam. Like it's fine.
Researchers
I
and I have
mean-
talked about. We've been like, should we just have like a big like group-wide calcathon? Just teach everyone how to calc.
No, please. I think I once was like, oh yeah, I'd love to learn how to calc, and then I realized exactly what went into it, and I was like, I think I would rather put my foot in the oven.
I promise, the math itself is not hard. It's just time-consuming. That's all it is.
But
math
Right.
itself is
Buddy Biggs in the chat as the raised hand emoji says, "Mr. Liam, is this going to be on the test?" All right, let's get into the next question for Shadow versus Ryuko. Can you further explain how Shadow is able to bypass Ryuko's healing factor? Isn't it possible that in the majority of fights, the healing factor would allow Ryuko to win?
Okay, Shadow's just like really fast.
Yeah.
Like really fast. Have we not gone through hedgehogs and being really fast?
The thing is that the way that Ryuko regenerates is that like assuming like her arm is being cut off, like as the knife goes through her arm, like the part that's been cut starts to heal before the knife has popped out. So essentially, she never has an arm like fully severed. That's how it works. Shadow, like Jen said, ultra super fast, would be able to cut through like her entire arm before she could start healing it and would permanently sever it. That's also why she's able to nullify Nui's healing factors, because she cuts it with like both ends. Because when both ends of the scissor blade go in like that, you can't heal over anything.
That's
Also,
what makes the scissor blade so powerful against life fighting
Yeah.
people.
and also Shadow is just so powerful, he could just obliterate her, like just vaporize her, with a full powered
Hence-
chaos blast.
Hence the end of the fight.
Hence the end of the fight. Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, this episode is brought to you by Blue Chew. Blue Chew is making waves and bringing more confidence to the bedroom. It's going to be that kind of ad because we talk about PPs. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in a chewable form, which is much nicer. And at a fraction of the cost, which who's going to complain about that? Blue Chew's tablets combat all forms of ED and can help men gain extra confidence when it's time to perform. Who wouldn't like that? Blue Chew is online prescription service, so you don't have to worry about awkward visits to the doctor, or conversations, or waiting in line at the pharmacy, because it ships right to your door in a discreet package, so not even your postal carrier will know your business. The process is simple. Sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers. It's not a bunch of snake oil. These are, licensed medical people. And so once you do that, you can just get it all shipped to your door nice and discreetly. And yeah, they'll help you work on, the correct prescription, the strength of the prescription, all that kind of stuff with you. So it's great. Once again, if you don't like swallowed pills, it's not a problem. Blue Chew's Viagra and Cialis. I can't say the medical names. I'm not good at Latin. Sildenafil and Tadalafil. There you go. I tried. They're chewable. So yeah, that's much nicer and more simple to use in a pinch. So Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and they prepare and ship direct. So it's cheaper than a pharmacy. So if you could benefit from some extra confidence in the bed when it is most important, visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. We've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew for free when you use your promo code DBC at checkout. They provide, you just provide $5 for shipping and everything else free. That's bluechew.com with the promo code DBC to receive your first month free. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring us, because without sponsors like Blue Chew, we wouldn't have this. So thank you, Blue Chew, and go check it out. That's all. Bye.
I know you had a lot of fun writing that one, Jen, but I love that ending.
It's like a perfect foil to Yoda versus Mickey, because I was like, they don't respect each other at all.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of respect, I guess.
Yeah.
We respect Liam.
We respect Liam a lot for directing this upcoming episode of Death Battle, Lex Luthor versus Doctor Doom, our first comic book fight of the year. It's gonna be super awesome. Like, these guys have been kicking so much ass. Like, Luis and his team. He wasn't able to make it onto this episode. We'll definitely have him on a Q&A in the future to talk a little bit about how animation has been changing over the year, because those guys have been, man, they're so impressive. But Liam, you want to talk a little bit about your first directing gig in Death Battle before we show the sneak peek?
I would love to. This episode was super fun to direct from the beginning. Lousy is the writer. He's one of our researchers and writers. And I worked with him from the beginning. We both had ideas going into it. I'm also the research lead, so I supervise research for all the characters. So I did a lot of work helping out with Lex research. So I had a bunch of ideas. It was really fun. It was really interesting being a part of the process, like every step of the way. Whereas before, like, just as like a writer, I'm like, okay, I have script, I hand it over, and eventually I see like the fruits of my labor. But as a director, it's like, no, every single step of the way I'm there. And it's not always like, one of the things that amazed me was that I'm not always like, I don't need to know how everyone does everything. I just need to have like a vision for what I want to see and then convey that to them. And then it's their job to then give that to me. And I go, okay, or no. But it was a lot of okays. I really loved being part of the animation, like how detailed we get with every like shot, because we review shots, and being like, oh, I think right here would be really cool if Lex, like, if we extended the middle finger a little larger for Lex. Just kidding, that doesn't happen. Being part of the music, like talking, like seeing like what the process is for the music, and seeing like, ooh, I think this moment would work really well here, or ooh, bump it up right now because this is the part where X happens. It was just super exciting, and so satisfying when I'd see like, okay, here's the completed fight animation. Oh, it looks so awesome. And then, oh, here's the completed fight animation with the insane backgrounds that Luis did, which I know people were popping off in Twitter because it looked amazing. And then, oh, here's with the music. Oh my God, it's insane. And then here's with the sound effects. I was so surprised that like sound effects would like launch me into the stratosphere. God, it was so seeing it all like piece by piece come together was so exciting. And really gratifying just to see the results of a project you've been working on for so long. Yeah, great. It was just really fun.
I don't want to overhype it, but I think I said this when we did commentary, and I was like, this is probably my favorite 2D fight we've ever done. So,
I mean, with that being said, let's go ahead and check out the sneak peek for this upcoming episode of Lex Luthor versus Dr. Doom.
Oh, a visitor?
Mr. Luthor, your company has invaluable resources for the people of Latveria. I will be seizing them.
Latveria? What an exquisite place to start a corporatocracy.
No sound design on that one, but that is a good. It does look really cool, right?
Made gun noises.
I was like,
if I had known, I would have been like, "All right, let's make sound effects, guys. Get ready." Pew pew. But yes, okay. So Lex Luthor versus Doctor Doom with sound is coming this upcoming weekend, Sunday for First Members, Monday on YouTube.
And sound is only for first members.
Real dope. only first members get sound.
Yeah.
Everybody else has to make up the sound effects themselves.
There you go.
No, Phil did such a cool job. So that's such
Yeah.
an awesome job with the sound design. So I can't
I know
wait
that
for you guys
sneak
to
peek
hear
was
that.
just a little short, but that's because this one's full of fun twists and turns, and we want to keep it a surprise.
Yes.
Because
All
God,
right.
I wish we could have shown my favorite combo. There's so many cool things. In this.
There's some great moments in this one. All right,
There really
we got like 12 more minutes or so. Let's we got a few questions from Twitter. So let's kind of rapid fire those out.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, let me do that. I was distracted because the chat is saying April 14, and I'm like, Sam did it again. Okay. April 4th. This one comes from Raging Zacroni on Twitter. How do you go about applying the rules for each character's universe? For example, when a Pokemon is featured, what determines if its abilities are considered super effective against the opponent?
Ooh, great question.
It is a great question.
Well, we did do a recent Pokemon episode. I know it feels like we did it like 2 years ago, but Machamp versus Goro was pretty recent. The idea that like Pokemon moves could be super effective against characters that aren't Pokemon. I know we did that like in early Death Battle days. We really shouldn't have, to be frank. There are very few occasions where that actually makes sense. Most of the time, it just doesn't really make sense.
If it's like a Charizard fighting like, I don't know, Sub-Zero or something, then the fire would melt the ice. Like that's just logical. That makes sense. But beyond that, it's harder to give like a definitive kind of sweeping answer, I'd say.
Why don't give the chat 4 tea cakes? I'm sorry.
Like stole 14 cakes. Or with a T. Cakes. That's not nice.
Way to go, Idok. That got me. All right. This one comes from Molar Eclipse. If a character has a power for a long time but loses it later on, do you still give it to them in a death battle, or do you only use their current arsenal?
Well, Aquaman still had his hand. Like, that thing got cut off.
That's another one that's kind of like, it depends.
Yeah.
Frankly, a lot of, and I hate to like give answers that are just like, it depends, but you know, a lot of the times that's what it is. So if a character has a power for a long time but loses it later, I guess it would. The question would be: can we argue that it should be part of their standard arsenal?
Yeah,
and then that is obviously subjective, but like, there's only so far you can go before it becomes subjective.
You try to take characters at their strongest, but like a general strongest, not like the one time that Bubba got the death laser that destroys the multiverse. Like if Bubba can only just punch with his fists, then Bubba's probably not getting the death laser. If that makes sense.
It's like this dog once had a knife in its mouth.
Liam's
it doesn't
second
always
episode.
have a knife.
Yeah.
From the hit manga Bubba and the Death Laser.
Bubba.
There we go. All right, this one's coming from Moxie SK47. Will there be more ponies? I don't know. Like, we did the big crazy ones, like with Rainbow Dash and Twilight. And some people get really upset. And then, I don't know, what would we do? Applejack next? Like, Fluttershy, other than like her having like an animal army. We do Fluttershy versus Snow White.
Applejack versus the what's that cereal?
Applejacks?
Yeah. Like versus like the duo of like it's like the cinnamon stick and the apple. Yeah, there you go.
They're insane though. So I feel like they actually might put up a fight.
Oh, would they? Oh, that'd be
That
hilarious if
worries
they
me.
won. Yeah, Applejack versus the Applejack duo. There you go.
I don't know. Like, Applejack could kick some ass, but I don't know. Ben, you're making a face.
Yeah, this is your
next question.
It is very fun to analyze My Little Pony characters because they should have never been meant to be analyzed, which
I feel like we've already covered the friendship is magic stuff more than enough. We can move on from that.
If there was ever a friendship battle show, then we might use more ponies.
If there's a great matchup, we'll do it. Oh yeah, we use Pinkie Pie as well.
Of course. If there's a good matchup, we're always willing to do it. Like, no character is banned or too weird or too far out there for us to potentially bring into a death battle. We just need a cool matchup that we think we
Except
can do
for
something cool
Homestuck.
with.
I think we all agree that's not right.
I was actually wondering if
I
we're
don't
ever
know
doing
about
a
that,
Homestuck
Chad.
character.
All right.
Homestuck's crazy powerful, apparently.
Awesome
I've
Ethan
read
48.
it.
Oh wait, sorry. This was Justin Rockstar. What's your all-time favorite death battle as of now?
Okay, we're gonna
Oh
have
my
to be
God.
quick on this one.
I can't.
Can I be narcissistic?
Mine's probably Deadpool versus Mask.
Hmm.
That is a good
Oh,
one.
yeah, I
Josh.
love that one. It's a
First
special
one that
place in
comes
my
to your
heart.
mind.
Goro Machamp. No,
Yeah,
I just
that's a
was
great
so
one.
pleased with how that one came together. That
Yeah.
was such a fun one. And the rundown for Machamp being like that Animal Planet style thing.
Such a good job. I love that one. Jen.
I liked All Might versus Might Guy.
Yeah.
Yep. good one.
Yeah. Tori did such a kick-ass job with that animation. Like
It
the
was
whole
so
team
funny.
did. It was so good. Liam.
Obi-Wan Kakashi. Obi-Wan
Yeah.
Kakashi.
Of course you would
I
pick
just,
that one.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And second place is Ganondrak. I'm such a the
Yeah, I was
worst.
about to be like, Carnage versus Lucy, always and forever, but
Dude, it's so many for so many different reasons, but I'll throw out one that I don't say a ton of times, but Iron Man versus Lex Luthor is still one of my favorite fights of all time. Torian fucking killed it. And there's so
Good one.
many phases to that fight and different models, and the music is hype, and God, I love that fight.
Yeah, I will say I think that's an episode that that's one of those episodes that I was watching back before and I think is just too long. Not the fight, but the episode itself. That's it's an example of why I'm like, okay, we should probably have some like caps to these scripts that we, these rundown scripts that we write. Because man, that one slogs a little bit, but the fight is dope as shit.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, let's see if we can bang out one more real quick from awesome Ethan 48. It says, why Lex Luthor versus Doctor Doom? And you guarantee it will top Lex versus Iron Man? Oh, wow, that's crazy. I hadn't even read that yet.
I thought you were
Hell
teeing
yeah.
up for
I
that.
thought you were setting us
I
up.
didn't. No, I legitimately hadn't read it yet. That's great. Unintentional segue. Perfect.
Lex versus Iron Man is really, really good.
Yeah.
It's never our intention to top previous episodes, though. Like I have a very specific way of looking at death metal episodes in that, like, for the majority of how do I want to say this? Generally speaking, when we work on a death metal episode, the other episodes that we've made in the past don't matter. We're not trying to top them. We're not trying to like expand upon them. There are a couple episodes that are specifically sequels to other ones. But then other than that, every so often we'll be like, oh, this calc was done in this episode. So we could just like kind of point people to that calc. And that's about as far as it'll ever go in terms of like us comparing ourselves to our previous work for the current work. Because otherwise, every episode has a different writer. Every episode usually has a different animation team. I'm of the opinion, and it seems to have been working for Death Metal quite well, that whoever's working on each episode should just do what they want with it. And if the writers and the animators and the researchers are able to put their work into an episode as opposed to like compare it and be forced to essentially take previous work and put that into it, it's going to be so much better if they can make it their own. And I love that Death Metal is able to do that. Not every show is able to do that.
Yep.
So
it also helps that we have different forms of animation at our disposal.
Yes.
Which helps it feel very different. Like Iron Man versus Lex was just talking about, is like one of my favorite 3D fights of all time. And I was just telling you guys that Lex Doom is like probably my favorite 2D fight we've ever done. So it's great in its own way.
Yep. All right.
Cool.
I think we have one more or two more questions.
Oh, yeah, these aren't labeled. All right, Lex versus Doom is the first Marvel versus DC matchup of the year. Should we be expecting a large amount of Marvel versus DC matchup this year, similar to last year?
Nope.
Nailed it.
Nope. I mean, there's definitely going to be Marvel versus DC matchups because, like, that's kind of Death Metal's bread and butter. That and like shonen matchups. Those are obviously. We don't hide this. Like, those are obviously like the most popular ones. And in order for the show to survive, we have to have some popular episodes, right? But no, we're not going to be like dumping a Marvel vs. DC matchup or even a comic book character matchup every other episode. So you don't have to worry about that.
Yep. So speaking of big matchups, there's a question here. It's a pretty big question. It's one that a lot of people have been asking. And that is, will you guys finally do Galactus versus Unicron this season?
Well, that's all the time we have for questions this week. Thank you guys so much for sending them all in. Like, this was a lot of fun. Like to cover everything, and we've actually fit in the time frame just perfectly. We're about at the end of the hour, so thank you all for watching. I hope we answered all your questions. I know I'm sure there's plenty more to cover, but let us know what you think of this sort of like occasional format. If maybe we should do this every so often for future Death Metal Cast episodes, and if you guys have any other suggestions or questions that you want answered. Otherwise, we will be going back to our community death battle, our new community death battle format for next episode with special guest Danny Shepard from Ismahawk.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I love that guy.
I love Danny.
It's
Danny's
going to be
great.
a lot of fun. Josh, Jen, Liam, of course, Chad, thank you all so much for jumping in to this special 5-person cast. I didn't even mention that. We have more people than usual.
A landmark episode.
You did the very beginning. You got it.
Yeah. Clearly, everything is changing with Death Metal's 10-year anniversary. No, but these guys are fantastic. I'm super proud of all the work you guys have done. Killer writing squad right here. And so excited to see what you guys think of Liam's first directed Death Battle episode this weekend. All right, with that being said, make sure to be kind to others, be kind to yourself, be awesome. See you next week.
Bye.
Yes, let's do it.
Oh, we're gonna do it.
Sound
Here we go.
effects.
Oh yeah.
Mics are live. We're doing sound effects. I got the first one.
Oh,
I can take
a visitor.
Doom's gun.
Mr. Luthor,
Cool, I got
your
Lex's
company
gun.
has invaluable resources for the people of Latveria. I will be seizing them.
Latveria. What an
Put
exquisite
it in the
place
unholstering
to
kick.
start a corporatocracy.
Yeah. I just automatically switched to effort.
God, that was terrible. I love it.
14.
That was real stupid.